Tonight, a story of desperation, deception, and disaster. A secret alliance, forged in the shadows of international sanctions, has come apart in the most spectacular and explosive way imaginable. The headline: Kim's $1.5 billion gamble. Russia's North Korean arsenal implodes. This isn't just a failed arms deal, it's a catastrophic miscalculation that's exposed the rot inside Russia's war machine. Russian artillery units, once feared, now face a crisis. The very shells meant to turn the tide are turning on them. Duds, premature explosions, and wildly off-target rockets are crippling Russia's ability to wage war. The deal, meant as a lifeline, has become a poison pill. Russia's humiliation is public. North Korea's reputation as an arms dealer is in tatters. The trust between Putin and Kim has evaporated in a cloud of cordite and recrimination. The deal is dead, replaced by anger and betrayal. The disaster began in Moscow's desperate corridors of power. By late 2024, Russia's war in Ukraine had become a brutal stalemate, with ammunition running dangerously low. Western sanctions crippled Russia's defense industry, leaving Putin scrambling for solutions. Enter Jong Un, North Korea, isolated but armed with vast stockpiles of Soviet-style munitions. A secret pact was struck. North Korea would supply millions of shells and rockets. Russia would pay $1.5 billion in cash, food, oil, and technology. Shipments were disguised as civilian cargo, moved by rail and sea under heavy secrecy. Both leaders believed they'd outsmarted the West, forging a new axis of defiance. Russia would get firepower, North Korea, a lifeline for its regime. But this alliance of convenience was built on desperation, not trust. The deal was massive, risky, and, as we now know, fatally flawed. They could not have been more wrong. The first warning came from Russian artillery crews, not intelligence reports. North Korean munitions arrived at the front, old, corroded, and poorly stored. Shells from different lots were mixed together, fuses mismatched, propellant charges inconsistent. Russian soldiers faced a nightmare: use unreliable ammo and risk their lives, or go without artillery support. North Korea had prioritized quantity over quality for years, reserving the best for itself and selling Russia the dregs. Jong Un offloaded surplus junk, passing it off as credible supply. Up to 40% of shells failed, some duds, others detonating in the barrel, killing crews. Morale plummeted as Russian gunners grew terrified of their own weapons. The $1.5 billion arsenal meant to save Russia was sabotaging its war effort. The deception was monumental, and the consequences deadly. Russia's gamble had backfired spectacularly. The war machine was now its own worst enemy. The battlefield delivered a brutal verdict on the Russo-Korean arms deal. Failures were systemic. In Bakhmut, a Russian battery was wiped out by its own North Korean shell. Artillery barrages became unreliable, leaving Russian infantry exposed and casualties soaring. North Korean rockets were so inaccurate that salvos scattered harmlessly across empty fields. Russian commanders described the shells as a deadly lottery, every shot a gamble. Intercepted communications revealed chaos and desperation in Russian ranks. Ukraine capitalized, regrouping and fortifying as Russian offensives stalled. The ammunition meant to fuel a great offensive instead paralyzed Russia's advance. The enemy within Russia's own supply lines was more damaging than Ukraine's guns. The war's momentum shifted, not by force, but by failure. The great offensive never truly began. While Russian troops suffered, Ukrainian intelligence was already unraveling the mystery. The GUR, with Western partners, tracked suspicious rail shipments from North Korea. On the battlefield, Ukrainian teams risked their lives to recover shell fragments and unexploded ordnance. Analysis revealed non-Russian markings and inferior metallurgy, clear evidence of North Korean origin. Ukraine cataloged every dud, misfire, and explosion, mapping the disaster in real time. The failure rate was astronomical, tied to specific shipments and units. Ukraine built a comprehensive dossier, knowing exactly where the faulty shells were and how they crippled Russian forces. This wasn't just intelligence, it was a weapon. Ukraine was ready to turn Russia's logistical nightmare into a strategic catastrophe. The tables were about to turn. Armed with evidence, Ukraine launched a masterful campaign. First, a psychological offensive. Photos, videos, and intercepted audio exposed Russia's reliance on North Korean junk. The message: Russia's military is so broken, it's killing its own troops with imported garbage. Next, precision strikes. Ukrainian missiles targeted volatile ammunition depots, triggering massive explosions. Supply lines were severed, logistics thrown into chaos. Every new shipment became a liability, a ticking time bomb for Russia. Ukraine used intelligence to exploit weak Russian artillery units, launching counteroffensives where enemy firepower was weakest. Russia's numerical advantage was neutralized by Ukraine's data-driven tactics. The campaign was a masterclass in modern, intelligence-led warfare. Russia's $1.5 billion investment went up in smoke. Literally, Ukraine turned disaster into opportunity. The fallout inside Russia was immediate and severe. National pride was shattered. Relying on North Korea, then being sold defective goods, was a public humiliation. Pro-war bloggers turned on the Kremlin, demanding accountability for the fiasco. The Ministry of Defense, intelligence services, and diplomats all blamed each other. Putin's image as an infallible leader took a hit, his inner circle exposed as desperate and incompetent. The destruction of depots was a staggering financial and material loss. Offensive operations were postponed. The military was forced onto the defensive. Internal rivalries deepened as units hoarded reliable ammunition, refusing to share. The North Korean arms fiasco fueled mistrust and paralyzed command. Russia's army was now fighting itself as much as Ukraine. The war effort was in disarray. In Pyongyang, the fallout was just as intense. Jong Un's regime denied everything, but panic set in behind closed doors. The deal, meant to be a diplomatic triumph, exposed North Korea as an unreliable arms supplier. Trust between Moscow and Pyongyang collapsed instantly. Russia demanded explanations and compensation. North Korea blamed Russian mishandling and Ukrainian sabotage. The alliance shattered. Technology transfers and aid were halted. Kim's gamble backfired, alienating a rare ally and destroying his credibility. Other potential buyers now doubted North Korean weapons. The so-called Brotherhood was revealed as a transactional, desperate partnership. Both regimes were left isolated, humiliated, and betrayed. The $1.5 billion arms deal is a lesson in modern warfare. Wars aren't won by numbers alone, but by quality, logistics, and trust. Russia's shortcut, quantity over quality, crippled its war effort. Ukraine's victory was won with intelligence, analysis, and precision. Russia's greatest perceived advantage became its greatest vulnerability. The collapse of the Moscow-Pyongyang axis shows the fragility of autocratic alliances. Without trust, partnerships shatter at the first sign of trouble. Ukraine's coalition, by contrast, remains cohesive and committed. In war, character and quality matter most. By exposing and exploiting every flaw, Ukraine won not just a battle, but a war of narratives and resilience.